podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan, and my guest in this episode has won league titles at both levels of British Speedway, most recently with the Belle Vue Aces in 2022. He's the Championship League Riders champion for 2023. He's won the championship pairs, and in 2019, he was the British champion.
Charles Wright is from this area in Manchester, and Charles Wright is the champion of Great Britain.
Ty Woffenden come down because he was commentating on the night, and he come up to me and said, "Oh, you're more than quick enough to win this tonight." And I think I was on just more of a mission. It was either I put it all on the line or, I would have binned it.
Charles very much following in family footsteps. As you'll hear, his granddad was a Speedway rider with the Belle Vue Aces, but it wasn't always so easy though, and there were moments where he seriously questioned whether Speedway was for him. He battled through and has reached the very top of the domestic game in British Speedway. We'll hear all about it in this episode of Humans of Speedway. Charles Wright joins us, and Charles, as you speak to us, you're in a different place in the sport because you've sort of turned promoter at the moment. You've got your testimonial on the way, one of the first meetings in British Speedway on March 17th, and so you're having to get your head around that side of the sport as well now.
Yeah, probably riders that have done it before know how much of a headache it is organising wise and making sure everything's on place, but there's only going to be one winner on the day, and that's the weather. So just fingers crossed the weather plays a good part on the day, and everything should run smoothly. So let's crack on and talk about this meeting then, first of all, because it's one of the opening meetings of a very big weekend, or a week of Speedway really. There's a few big events happening there, and people can make a bit of a road trip of it as well, because you're the day after the Ben Fund and the day before the Peter Craven meeting. I know that when we did the team reveal at Redcar, when you announced that this was going to be happening, that you were going to be putting together an impressive lineup, and you're starting big, aren't you? You've got, well, there's not many better riders in the world at this moment in time than the first man that you're naming. Yeah, like I say, second in the world this year, Freddie Lindgren. It gets it off to a good start and gets the fans excited with the other names following. So I'm quite happy to get Freddie at my testimonial, and it'd be great for him to be part of my big day.
Fast Freddie around Redcar is going to be something to behold, isn't it? And I think he was supposed to make it there last year, wasn't he, for one of the meetings, the Stuart Robson one, but obviously that fell victim to the weather. Hopefully that's not the case for you, but it's going to be one to watch, isn't it? I don't think he's been to Redcar before. He won't have had a chance to race there before, will he, or has he?
No, probably with it being championship, he's probably never ridden there, and obviously that's good for the Redcar fans and championship clubs, where they'll never see a rider like that round there. So it's good to have him there. And like I say again, it just hope the weather plays a good part of the situation on the day.
Okay, and yeah, fingers crossed, as you say, for the weather. It's all you can do, isn't it? But assuming it all goes to plan, then, which is what we hope. What is the format? Is it a team event? Is it an individual, like a Grand Prix event? How are you running it?
Yeah, so it'll be 16 riders, 20 heats, one semi and one final. So 2 go straight through to the final, and 2 go through from the semi-final into the final.
So the date for your diary then is the 17th of March at Redcar's Echo Arena. It's a 3:00 start. It's the day after the Ben Fund meeting, and it's the day before the Peter Craven Memorial. And Freddie Lindgren is riding in certainly both of those first 2 meetings. We'll have to wait and see if he's appearing at the Peter Craven. But, if we were putting 2 and 2 together, we might be onto something. I'm not sure. I genuinely don't know. But he is due to ride in the Ben Fund and and the first rider to be named in Charles Wright's testimonial on the 17th of March. Let's get on to Charles's story now. Charles, my first question is always, how did you get into Speedway? It's always a family connection pretty much all the time. And for you, even more personally, because your granddad, Jim Yacoby, was a Belle Vue rider in the 1960s. So you have a direct link, of course, there with your granddad, Jim. Your brother, of course, a rider too. So how did it all get started for you and your first memories of going to Speedway, maybe with your granddad? I'm not sure.
Yeah, obviously the connections through my granddad, and started on the grass track and worked my way up into the Speedway. But I've been going since Speedway since I was a young kid, probably 3 years old, watching the likes of Bobby Ott around Belle Vue and Jason Lyons and a lot more. But no, so it's been a big part. It's been my whole life, to be fair, and it's been through my family. And then my brother started before me. To be honest, Ian, I wasn't really that interested when I got into the Speedway. I was big into my rugby, and my brother started doing well and at a young age, and it sort of gave me a push, and he was earning good money at a young age, and I was like, oh, I'll have a bit of this, and it just went from there, really. And to be honest, I probably didn't take it as serious as I should have at a younger age. I used to not put everything into it, but I give it a good crack, and it's worked out all right out in the end. So.
Well, it certainly has worked out, and as you say, it could have gone the other way. You could have found it difficult, and maybe then wished you'd done another sport when you had the chance. So it was a, sort of calculated decision, I suppose. And so, what was the general kind of family reaction then when you said that you also wanted to get into Speedway? Was it kind of sort of taken as oh well, fair enough, it's sort of the family business in a way, or what was that sort of reaction?
I think they would never have. Obviously, it's been a big part of our family and stuff. And with James, they would give us the same crack as what James has, and and they were always being more than supportive behind my decisions of whatever I wanted to do. And I actually fell out of love with the sport of getting dropped by numerous teams throughout my career, and it could have been a fault of my own not putting into it of what I should have. And I think 2012 I must have been dropped about 3 times in the season, and it was like I need to really look at my future, and I just started working back on a building site, and started doing National League, a bit of fun at weekends, and I was maxing out, enjoying my racing, and Gary May come on the phone and said, "Oh, will you ride for Somerset?" I think it was probably June time, and I was like, "No." And then I said, "I'm enjoying my racing." I said, "I don't want to get into championship." I said, "I've been dropped numerous times." He says. And then they said, "I'll come back to me in August when they see it." And he come back to me. And since I obviously went to Somerset, I've never really looked back. I was at a really good club and a very successful club for numerous of years. And I think that's where I took it a bit more seriously. It took me to go a step back to go 2 steps forward. And I've never really looked back from then. So that's where I am today.
So that's the story in a nutshell, but let's get into a bit more detail and back to your first days in Speedway as such, because you said you'd done some grass track, and really you started at Buxton, which is a track that is a fairly technical track, I guess you'd say. Not everybody likes it, I know that, but that's where you learnt your craft, and surely some of the stuff you've learnt there has made you the rider that you are now. But just take us back to those early days around Buxton.
Not a lot of people like riding Buxton because it was, deep and rough. But as you say, I learnt my trade around there. So when the track was a bit deep and nobody used to like it, and then it's, it was a tough track to ride. If you were going there each week, but I cracked it, and it's probably helped me throughout my career of starting there. And it's helped a lot of good riders, past and present. That track, and it was always a good, fun track to ride. So no, I've got a lot to thank starting my career at Buxton, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's some rubbish riders started their speedway careers as well there, including myself. And there's a picture of me and my dad there. Look at Buxton a couple of years ago on the Ride and Skid It day, and the weather can change pretty quickly there, can't it? It was quite sunny when we arrived, and it was absolutely throwing it down by the time we finished.
Yeah, I think it's the only place that's in the middle of nowhere, and it was snowing in June one year, so it's out in the sticks, that's for sure, Ian.
Yeah, certainly can be wild, but it's a great training ground. Not just for riders. We did an episode with Craig Ackroyd not long ago, and he sort of started his refereeing career there. But I suppose because it is a reasonably small circuit, things happen a lot quicker. But that gives you more practice, doesn't it? And you get that track craft probably a lot quicker, maybe.
Yeah, like most people, the best tracks to ride are the small tracks. I mean, anyone can ride a big flat out track, but it's the small technical tracks where people struggle with. And, I was obviously with Buxton and with a bit of dirt on it, it taught me quite a lot, that's for sure. So, no.
And you also then, as well as doing that, you got your chance at the next level up, and you had some time at Workington as well, which obviously were a different team, different place at that time, but a big step up really from grass track and Buxton to go to Workington, who they've had some decent riders, yourself included, through the gates over the years, and especially when they were at Derwent Park. Again, that was a different kettle of fish versus what you'd been used to at Buxton for sure.
Yeah, obviously the legend Carl Stoney, rode with him for a couple of years. Carl Coneeman, which is still a good friend. And no, I was fortunate to go to that place, obviously following the footstep, because my brother was already there, and that's probably where the key was. And working under the management of Ian Thomas and Tony Moll, which were brilliant, to work for, and fan base, it was brilliant. It was always booming, the place, and a lot of the riders liked going there, and it was the party afterwards and going into town. And there's a lot of fun days there at Workington, ones I won't forget. So.
Yeah, I don't think is it the Waverley Hotel? I don't think it's seen days like that since when Stoney used to bring the entire stadium back round after.
Yeah, no, it's the good days. I don't think they did. Nowadays it's very a lot more serious than it was back then, and there's good times.
I bet, and we might hear some of those stories because Stoney's writing a book, isn't he? And that's going to be out. I think they're aiming for around Cardiff, but you never know. You might have a starring role, Charles. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, it'll be a fun read, so I'd definitely get a copy. That's he deserves it, and it'll be a fun read.
Certainly will. I think there'll be a few people looking through that very nervously as they go. You also then had your first experience at Redcar not long after, like going into 2010, which obviously was slightly different then. They've built it up a little bit more now, haven't they, as time's gone on, things have developed. But you are now sitting here today, and for the last couple of years, you've been a Redcar asset. So this relationship with Redcar, people who've come into the sport recently, know that you ride for them, but obviously your relationship with that track and the people involved there at the very top and the people around the club, of course, goes back, 14 years or more now.
Yeah, it's just very good. It's not the wealthiest of clubs, but the people that are there, from the management to the fans are brilliant. It's you couldn't feel any more welcoming, and it's a very family-run club. And, for me to be there as long as I have done, it means, I'm really happy where I'm at. And, you always get offers of other clubs, but I would never shoot myself in the foot because they really look after me, and I couldn't feel more at home.
One of the things I love about Redcar and the Speedway I've seen there, I don't think I've ever seen a bad meeting at Redcar. I've never seen a hiding for either side. And you always know there's a chance, and even if the home side or the away side get off to an early lead, you know that maybe by heat 11 or 12 or so that it could still come round yet. And it's very rare that I've seen it out of sight, and often meetings come down to the last few heats, which is maybe good for fans, maybe not so much good for you if you're the captain.
Yeah, it's, like I say, everybody enjoys it's a proper racing track, and yeah, it is hard as a home advantage. It's fair, but the home fans, they just love a good race meeting, and 9 times out of 10 you're always going to get that at Redcar, and it probably on this side of a home advantage, but it's good for everyone. It's one of them. It swings about really, Ian, but you know what you get with Redcar, and you're going to get good racing.
And for the kind of rider like yourself who likes hanging it out there on the boards, nice bit of banking as well, especially on that third and fourth bend, isn't there, that you can sort of take advantage of too?
Yeah, it's 3 and 4 is obviously a lot more banked than 1 and 2, and it sort of rides uphill. It's probably one of the only tracks that you find that you're going downhill into the first corner and going uphill into the third corner. But there's so many different lines, and obviously over the years of me being there, I know exactly what works and what doesn't. So it's enjoyable to ride.
Nothing's ever plain sailing in Speedway though, and you've gone on to do good things. You've been British champion. You're the current Championship League Riders champion. You've won the championship pairs a couple of times now. But you have had the obstacles to overcome on the way. And particularly, I'm thinking that 2012 season, you're a few seasons in, and you found yourself, for whatever reason, in and out of sides. You achieved the unique aim of riding for both Edinburgh and Glasgow in the same season in 2012. But also because of that, you were then maybe considering your future as to whether you should go and do something else, whether you should jack it in. But you pushed through that, which can't have been easy when you do that. But you did push through it, and I suppose you're living proof that you can go on to great things, and riders do go through those tough times in the early days.
Yeah, it is tough. Like general people, they go to work, they get paid. Footballers are on contracts, they get paid. Regardless. Speedway riders, they could have a couple of meetings and they can be dropped, and you don't know. We're human beings who still got to get paid. Otherwise, if we go out there and if we don't score in the night, we don't get paid, and it's as simple as that. So mentally, it's can be very frustrating, the sport, and exhausting. And obviously, like I said, when you're being dropped so many times, you think, is it a different career path? And then obviously I sat back and was to myself, well, if I put everything in, at least I said I've done everything I possibly can do. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it is very tough. And obviously, you don't go there to travel up and down the country to do bad. It's just, if you don't score, you don't get paid. And yeah, it's very tough. And
sometimes you can be the victim of your own success as well. You can have an average that makes you unattractive because it's too high. And we've seen that with riders. We've seen it this last season, riders at Poole being let go because their average doesn't fit. Perfectly solid riders. Steve Worrell, is one as an example, who's now had to move to the other end of the country to do his Speedway because the numbers don't fit. So it can work all ways. It's nothing new. If you look back at Speedway Star editions from the 1960s and whatever, they're talking about something similar then. But for you as a rider, would you prefer to be able to have longer term contracts so that you know that you've got some sort of stability?
Yeah, it's exactly, obviously, same situation with Belle Vue, end of the season. Obviously, a couple had to go, or 1 or 2, and I fell victim of that because of the averages and because everyone had such a good year in the team. And I was without a job, but luckily within me announcing in a couple of days, I was already sorted. So, you know, I was lucky in that respect. But, you know, it's like Simon Lambert's an example. He had probably the year of his life last year and he's can't get a top spot. You know, it's really frustrating and really odd why he's not got picked up on his performance last year. So, yeah. You can always punish yourself for doing too well, or you know, face doesn't fit. It's just the way the sport is sometimes, and it's very frustrating, and it's easy to fall out of love with it. You also want sort of to know where you're standing, like a safety barrier. You know, everyone's got a mortgage or paying rent or kids, and you know, you need to know where you sort of stand. And yeah, it's always ongoing, but I don't think it's going to change. I think obviously they're adding on this year about 25% into the season before anyone can make any changes, and then nothing after 75%. You can't. So in between 25 and 75, because obviously you saw last year, the end of the playoffs, people were just making changes left, right and centre, and half of them have been there the whole season, and when it comes down to the important bit, what they worked all year for, they get dropped. And you know, I agree with them bringing this rule back in now, which they took out last year.
One of the biggest twists of last season was that moment when Ty Woofenden crashed at the British Grand Prix, and little did anybody realise how pivotal that would be for a couple of riders, and particularly the red car team, because you ended up getting Woofy's spot in the Wroclaw team. Wroclaw, of course, got through to the Ekstraliga Grand Final, and all of a sudden you find yourself riding Woofy's bikes in the Ekstraliga Grand Final, one of the biggest club meetings, well, probably the biggest club speedway meeting in the world. Tell us about that and how that sort of came about and the process leading up to it.
Yeah, it was a bit mind-baffling, but I was out there on the Thursday and I did 2 full days of practicing, and Ty was there with us, and I was obviously on his bikes and he was teaching me, we were seeing what bikes or what engine I preferred and the lines on the track. So it did help me having a bit of knowledge on the circuit. And obviously it comes to the day and, you know, the crowd's filling up, and, you know, it's not like Britain where you get, you know, 3,000 on a good night. You're talking like 17 to 20,000, and 17,000 poles, you know, is a hell of a noise. And it was a bit nerve-wracking for myself. And I'm just glad I got the practice before the meeting just to calm and settle myself down, because obviously they get to pick 2 riders from each team. So that obviously settled me a little bit. And yeah, it was all going well until it didn't. So no, it was one of my best highlights of my career, but also my lowest at the same time.
Yeah, and it was a very hard crash. And if people haven't seen it, then you can see footage of it on YouTube. But you hit the fence very hard. It was not too dissimilar to how Ty crashed at Cardiff as well. Talk us through what you remember of it. Because you clearly could see the fence coming. You were trying to get off the back of the bike. You didn't quite get there. What do you recall of that moment?
I think obviously I picked up going in the corner, but I was sort of seeing the sky and I thought, oh, I've got the bike down, and then all of a sudden I took off again. So I actually, only until I saw the video, I actually didn't know I clipped Patrick's back wheel, and I just thought, oh, I've got it down. And then all of a sudden it just went like 100 mile an hour into the fence, and I'm like just trying to get off the back of it. And yeah, there was it was very painful, and probably my worst crash I've had pain-wise, because I actually didn't hit my head in the accident, so I felt absolutely everything. And if it was, I think probably the stadium was a bit quiet at that minute, and probably hear me screaming. Not the best.
No, that's probably an understatement. And you suffered neck injuries, back injuries, rib injuries. You damaged your lungs as well, and you were in hospital for quite a while in Poland before you could leave, and also before you could fly back as well. You had to check that everything was safe there. So it was a long time before you were even able just to get home.
Yeah, so I spent over probably 2 weeks in hospital. So I was over there just over 3 weeks in the end. And obviously with my injuries and fracturing four bones in me back and breaking 4 ribs, my collarbone, and obviously me lung damage. I was pretty sore, and I wouldn't have been able to fly home anyway, regardless the lung, with it not being able to fly with my lungs, I wouldn't have been able to get on a plane anyway. I was in a wheelchair for quite a bit until I was a bit more mobile to come home.
And I think people will obviously be wondering how you are now, because you're getting ready to line up for the Oxford Spires, and ironically, Matt Sajanowski also took a massive knock, didn't he, in the same meeting as you? So you're probably in the hospital at the same time. You're going to be in the same team there, and also for Redcar as well. What's the current situation, and how's your fitness now, looking down at the 2024 season coming around the corner soon?
Yeah, I've done everything possible, and I've been swimming a hell of a lot, and I'm almost there now, and I've worked really hard to get to this stage, and I'm a determined person anyway, and I'll be fit and ready for the start of March, start for the season, and I'm probably going to start practicing late February and getting on a bike as quick as possible, and getting everything back into the groove.
Charles Wright, our guest on Humans of Speedway, and coming up in the next part, we'll have a chat with Charles about the point where things really started to go on an upward trajectory for him in the world of Speedway, and his time at Somerset, but also that British Championship, and taking on the Grand Prix and the world's finest as well, all on the way on Humans of Speedway. This is Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan. Don't forget to check out some of our previous episodes. There's some absolute corkers there. The one with Peter Adams being the previous one to this one that you're listening to now. The Wolves team manager, but also previously team manager with Cradley and Coventry, and some amazing stories. Never had a reaction like it for any of the podcasts we've done. So if you haven't heard Peter Adams yet, you must listen to that after you've listened to this one, of course. Also recently spoke to Hans Nielsen as well. So a couple of Coventry legends in the previous episodes. But right now, we're speaking to a modern-day legend of Redcar Speedway, former Belle Vue Ace. He's ridden for a number of clubs, actually, Charles Wright, through the course of his career in British Speedway, taking in time with the likes of Leicester, as was mentioned already, Edinburgh and Glasgow in the same season, Swindon Robins, the Sheffield Tigers, Peterborough Panthers, Belle Vue Aces, now the Oxford Spires. But it was the Somerset Rebels that really pulled you around. You said, Charles, that you had a really tricky season in 2012, but 2013 was a different kettle of fish when you moved to Somerset, and I guess you've not really looked back since. Tell us about it.
Yeah, like I say, we had a lot of success at the club, and Jason Doyle, there's a lot of big names there, and it sort of spurred you on. It was obviously a proper racing track, a track that suits my style, and I was quite a good fan's favourite down there, and there was a proper buzz about the place, and it's just obviously a shame the way it's ended now, because I would say that was one of my favourite tracks out what I've ever ridden, and it's just a shame how it's turned out, to be fair, in the end. But no, there's a lot of good memories there.
I think a lot of fans have a lot of good memories as well. I certainly do, because it was one of the tracks, that people went to on the way to Cardiff. Those championship pairs nights, and any night you got there and the sun was out, and maybe you got yourself a can of cider or something, and you're just relaxing, enjoying the weather and watching Speedway in perfect weather conditions. It doesn't get much better than that, and it was a tremendous venue that's sorely missed.
No, especially as good viewing points, the grass banking on the back straight, and It's a proper racing track, so for everyone to go there just before Cardiff, it made sense. It was sort of on the way to Cardiff, and obviously now it's at Oxford. That's the new the pairs, and I won the pairs at Somerset, and I've won it at Oxford as well, and been runner-up twice. So I've got quite a decent record on the pairs meetings.
And they had a solid team, didn't they? I mean, obviously the Poole Pirates at the time were in the top league, and Somerset were the next one down. But Somerset sort of had similar talent, didn't they? Brady Kurtz was there, Josh Groshonik, Todd Kurtz, of course. Ollie Allen rode for a bit there as well, didn't he? And Jason Doyle, as you mentioned. So it was a handy old team, that, even now.
Yeah, loads of good talent. Nick Morris, Alex Davis. Now he's not doing it, but he was a really talented. Corey Caffercall. There's a lot of good names that have been there and gone. And Zeta Strong was one. Plenty. It's just a shame the way it's turned out, and that seems to be Speedway at the minute. Like Peterborough, fantastic track, one of my favourites, and hopefully they can try and get that back on. It might not be over just yet, but it's looking bleak. But we can always see what happens.
The Hancocks, of course, no longer involved in Speedway, Debbie Hancock and Dad Bill. But Gary May, who was the team manager at Somerset at the time, still firmly is. He's down there at Plymouth now. And so one thing I've learned from commentating on a Gary May side is that you just never know who's going to come out. He does like to mix it up a bit versus the programme, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's always switching with the programme. He's a very good manager and a very good friend of mine as well, Ian. And I have a lot of time for Gary. And like I say, he's very technically very good with a programme, and probably already works it out before he gets there what he's going to do. I think he's the only person where I think I was at reserve. I probably had about 4 gate ones in one night. It just kept putting me out on the inside gate, just like the best gate. And I know the other reserve was probably getting free rides or whatever, but I kept getting all the best gates, and that's the way he was, because he's just a winner and he's used to winning, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he just does a job, and that's what he does.
So you had a number of good years with Somerset, I think 5 years or so, and achieved lots. But then you moved to Sheffield in 2018. You started with Somerset, moved to Sheffield, but then you also won the Premiership pairs, as it was, at Somerset with Sheffield. So how was that?
Yeah, I did. Funnily enough, Somerset just sacked me. And I went back there a couple of weeks and won the pairs. So, I don't think it went down too well, but it did with the fans. But, just a few disagreements, but that's all in the past now.
That's karma instantly served, isn't it, that?
There was probably a bit of that in it, and a bit of motivation behind it. So, it worked out all right.
Yeah, it did. And so we started by talking about how in 2012 you were thinking of maybe Speedway might not be for you. You might want a different outcome. But then you had this time with Somerset. You're on the upward trajectory. Then you get to 2019 and you're riding with Peterborough and also with Redcar. But then the British final happened. And it was the British final, of course, you won. In your home city. You weren't riding for Belle Vue at that point, but in your home city, which must have been hugely proud, especially with your family links as well, with your granddad being an ex-Belle Vue rider. To win a British title at Belle Vue must have been pretty special.
Yeah, obviously my hometown, obviously a club I've supported from a little kid, and my granddad and my brother riding for the club, so there was a lot of good feel factors about winning it there, and it's hopefully I can do it again, but no, it was a very special time of winning that, and obviously going to Cardiff as well on the back of winning that. Well,
life-changing, career-changing as well. It's taking you on to a different level and nobody can ever take that away from you now. You know, you've been a British champion. What do you remember of that meeting and of that final?
One thing I remember is obviously getting excluded in one of my races, which I don't think I should have been. And, you know, it was going well on the night, and I got excluded in my fourth ride, and I thought, well, either I have to win my last one, or if I don't do anything, I could not reach the semi now. And I think it fired me up a little bit more. And obviously, Ty Woofenden come down because he was commentating on the night, and he come up to me and said, "Oh, you know, just keep calm and relax. You're more than quick enough and to win this tonight." And I think a lot of that, you know, off a world champion, you know, taking that information in, and someone like that coming up to you and giving you a bit of courage, and I think that come in really good factor. And I just remember going straight through to the semi, and I didn't really think about it and going into the final. I was just I think I was on just more of a mission. It was either I put it all on the line, or, you know, I would have binned it, and that was the mentality.
The national title on the line, and a place at Cardiff in the FIM British Speedway Grand Prix on the line, and it's a great start from Cook. Cook has made a beauty. Now high into the dirt comes Charles Wright, and up the inside comes Denigan. You know,
I just about got past Craig Cook coming off the first bend, and there wasn't much room from there to the fence. And you know, as soon as I hit that dirt line, I was away and got my head down.
Charles Wright! Unbelievable! Now Cook will try the middle part of the track, but Charles Wright is so quick. And now Danny King is going to take up the chase. So is Craig Cook, but Charles Wright is going so wide. Oh, steady on,
Danny
boys!
King round the outside of Craig Cook, but Charles Wright, brave as a lion again, got himself to the front. All he's going to do now is just keep it wound on, and he will be British champion, and he'll be the first British champion to his career. What a ride from him so far.
Charles Wright, who rides for the Peterborough Panthers in the Premiership, and he rides for the Red Cup Airs in the Championship. He is so close now to his first ever British title. Oh, this is a fairy tale story. He's from this area in Manchester, and Charles Wright is the champion of Great Britain, and he is the wild card for the British Grand Prix in Cardiff on Saturday, September the 21st. Many, many, many congratulations to Charles Wright, who did it right.
It's a brilliant feeling.
And did it take a few days for it all to fully sink in what it meant and what you'd achieved?
Yeah, it was a strange one, and obviously the amount of attention you sort of get on the back of it, like nice messages and calls and interviews. You know, it was very overwhelming for myself because I wasn't used to being sort of fussed over in that sort of way, and there was a lot to take in, and you know, at some points I found it very difficult, even leading up to Cardiff, and you know, with people doing the wild card, and obviously Stevie will know last year, and other people that have qualified, is that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and you know, interviewing, and you know, it was a lot for myself. But you know, if I got the chance to do it again, I would know to do things a lot differently, and but no, I wouldn't change it for the world.
And of course, Cardiff is that big sort of byproduct. You want to be British champion, but it's the icing on the cake, isn't it, really, to go to Cardiff and appear in such a big event alongside the world's best. But you really get a taste of life at the very top, that, you know, you are in huge demand all through the day, not just your commitments and things you've got to do to be a rider, but all the sponsor and the fan engagement that you have to do as well. It's a full-on experience.
I didn't have 5 minutes. I was either at the sponsors zones bit or the fan zone and NGK stand, and then I was doing questionnaires, then I was doing interviews with BT Sports, and I was here, there and everywhere. So on the day, I didn't really have time to think about anything. I think I had about 10 minutes to eat my lunch, and then I was off somewhere else, and then we had an hour before the meeting with a referee. So it probably did me a favour keeping us busy and not trying to think about the meeting too much, because I didn't get as nervous as I thought I would be, and it probably helps. I always feel like if you keep busy on the day, you don't think about stuff as much, and I always find, for me anyway, keeping myself busy as possible.
Yeah, very busy, but of course it all comes down to the racing, and then it really gets real, doesn't it, when you get out there into that amphitheatre, the roof closed, a lot of people in the stadium, a terrific atmosphere. 2019, of course, was pre-COVID, so it was a different time when you were racing there as well, perhaps. So tell us about that, what you were really there for, the experience of getting out and racing at Cardiff.
Like I was, everything, there was a lot going on in the day, and I always just said to myself, just ride the bike and don't let the occasion get the better of me, and just ride the bike and try and focus what's in front of me. And obviously against 3 other top 15 best riders in the world, and you just got to say, they're just a rider, just ride the bike like you normally do and zone out. And I did, and it was going. I had a really good meeting, and I couldn't give it any more on the day. Obviously you'd always look back and you would change a few setups and that, but I was very proud of myself for what I achieved on the day, and I didn't disgrace myself, and that was the main thing.
But Artem Laguta, desperate for points, looking good out in front. Everson working overtime, running wide right from the inside. The British champion comes charging into second place. Can Everson respond? Really good opportunist move there from Charles Wright.
Yeah, and that was clever coming out of the second turn there as well, because he held his line. It's a win for Artem Laguta, but Charles Wright of Great Britain is on 4 points from 2 rides.
Brilliant.
He can make the semis, Cal.
He can indeed. Charles Wright.
Look at him punching the air.
He's having the
Come
time.
round, Charles, that's better.
He's having the time of his life.
I beat a few good names on the day, and like I say, I was just riding the bike how I normally would, and don't let the occasion affect me, even though it can get the better of you. And it was the same thing in Wroclaw as well. It was a massive occasion, and I didn't let it comes with experience as well, Ian, in that respect, and just trying to use your energy and focus a little bit more and don't think too much.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of big meetings there, the Wroclaw Grand Final, we've already touched on it, but also one of the first riders you met in that 2019 British Grand Prix at Cardiff was Maciej Janowski, who's now a teammate of yours at the Oxford Spires, a new team moving up to the top level of British Speedway in 2024. So tell us about that then. You said that you found yourself out of the Belle Vue side, and you've got a new home now and new teammates racing alongside Maciej, but also Bomber in the side as well, Louis Kerr. It's a strong lineup for Oxford.
Yeah, it's brilliant what they've done, and I hope everything works out for him. And it's really good for British Speedway, because you couldn't run on the amount of clubs in the top league. I just don't see how it would work. You would need at least 7 clubs in, so good on them to make the big jump, and obviously Birmingham as well to thank for doing that. But it's great for British Speedway, and Oxford's a track alike, and Jamie's built a really good team, and a lot of the lads that are in the team have either rode with him or I'm good friends with him, so it's a win-win really, and I'm happy to be there.
Charles Wright, our guest on Humans of Speedway. And in the next part, we'll talk about winning that top flight title. 29 years it took, and finally the Belle Vue Aces did it in 2022. Can they do it again sometime soon? We'll wait and see, but Charles Wright was certainly involved in that momentous day at Oleton Stadium, where against their bitter rivals Sheffield, the league title was sealed. We'll hear all about it in the next part of Humans of Speedway. This is Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan, and our guest in this episode is Charles Wright. Currently, in 2024, of the Oxford Spires and the Redcar Bears. But going back to 2022, he was part of that title-winning side for the Belle Vue Aces.
For the Belle Vue Aces, with a 6-point advantage coming into Heat 14. It's looking like it's going to be their championship. Sedgman's out in front, but the Belle Vue Aces are there. What a night of Speedway, what a championship, and many congratulations to the Belle Vue Aces. The 2022 Premiership is theirs.
It was a long time coming, wasn't it, Charles? Talk to us about that. You've been a fan standing on the terraces probably the last time. You were talking about Bobby Ott and a team of riders like that, and now you are one of those names that will be talked about over the years of being that team that finally did it after all those years.
Yeah, it was such a long time, 29 years, I think. And, they've got so close for so many years of being runner-up, like the year before against Peterborough, were runners-up. And they were always so close, but never got over the line. And, it was all drama going on at Sheffield and, a big local derby rival. And, it was a brilliant feeling. I wasn't obviously in the second leg of the meeting, but I was there to support the lads. But it was just such a great feeling, and it was glad that they brought the silverware home. So that's another one tick, and another good honour to have.
Did you think that when you had that crash at Belle Vue that that could be a problem going to Sheffield, because you being a former Sheffield rider, you did have a bit of experience around there?
Yeah. Obviously, Lemo was a bit nervous because he knows I'm quite a trump card of going Sheffield. And like I say, with that ruling where it was only to fill if RR was only to fill the top three and not obviously everyone throughout the team. So that was a big problem. And, Belle Vue deserved it anyway. And, it come down to the wire, but it was obviously the same thing happened this year. It's history's repeated itself. Obviously, we're crashing in Wroclaw. They had to use RR and go to Ipswich, which I've done. It's not my favourite track, but I seem to do pretty well there. And, the aggregate score got away from him. And, I think they could have covered me easily at Belle Vue, but away from home at Ipswich. It's just one of them things. It's a sport, but obviously they brought the rule in now this year where you can get RRs because obviously it's shown it was a problem, and nobody likes to see a team running with RRs and not full, especially when it comes to the finals. Yeah,
that is going to make a big difference, I think, isn't it? This next year, where guests can be brought in for everybody, as you say. That not somebody who just happens to be fourth in the averages. And so, looking ahead to the season ahead, Oxford and Redcar, and are you venturing overseas again? Are you doing Poland again?
I'm just going to, obviously, I'm always open to it, Ian, but I'm just going to get my feet on the ground over here again and get myself back into the groove over here. And then, obviously, I'm not ruling it out because if the opportunity comes back, I'm always more than, but I'm focused on England at the minute, and then we'll see what happens during the season.
Okay, well, let's hope it is a good and a safe season. But, of course, starting with your testimonial, I know that you're planning one meeting at the moment, but I just want to run through who would make your dream team if you had the choice of any rider. There was no problems with getting them to ride or logistics or costs or anything like that. Which riders would you say that would make your all-time team, the ones that have really inspired you as well?
Oh, well, one of my favourite ones, sort of, probably, growing up, I always looked up to was Mark Laram. Because he wasn't the best at gatings, but he could always come from behind. He was always one. Emil Saifutinov, definitely. He's a racer. Smarslick, Thomas Golob, Tony Ricardson, Lee Adams and Darcy Ward. There's just so many great riders, past and present. So, No, I'll go with them, to be fair. I think that's 7, is it?
I think it is, but all full throttle races though, and that's what we not all of them are world champions, but they many of them are. But they never give up, and that's sort of like your style, isn't it? You as you say, you might not make the best start, but it's a race over 4 laps.
Yeah, that's it, and it's obviously good for the fans, not good for myself. I'd rather make the gate and clear off, but. Yeah, I don't sometimes make it easy for myself.
What was that race? It was the one where I was doing the centre green thing at Redcar. It was against Birmingham, wasn't it? And it was Sedgy. Was Sedgy like versus you at least? He was on a max, he was on a max? I think, wasn't he? And he was in front, and you were. Honestly, it was like, and the game was done. Redcar had won the meeting, but there was absolutely no way Sedgy was getting that max.
No, not around the home track. I probably said that to myself. Someone's not coming here and maxing out around the home track. So I was probably a little bit more determined. Because I knew Sedgy was on a max going out for the race, and obviously the management tells you, and I wasn't letting get in a max around the home track.
What are your favourite tracks? If you could single one out, which track do you love going to? And it doesn't matter about what the stadium's like or anything like that, but just purely from a racing point of view.
I'm privileged, obviously, to Redcar is one of my favourite. There's Redcar, Belle Vue. I rode for them too last year. There's, I like the big fast tracks, and they're probably 2 that stand out. Obviously, you said 1, but. It's very hard to decide.
And now Workington, of course, in the championship as well, and Redcar and Workington racing each other quite a few times. So that's one you're going to get to know quite well as well.
Well, that's another one, Ian. Obviously, that might become one of my favourite tracks. It looks like a track I would enjoy racing, and we can only say I know we're there quite early on, quite a few times in the season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Redcar and Workington are going to be very well acquainted, I think, by the time the end of April comes around. But that's how it goes, isn't it? And from like the atmosphere that you've ridden in, you've ridden at Cardiff, you've ridden in the Ekstraliga Grand Final at Wroclaw. Which experience would you say has been the best so far in terms of the general experience?
I don't know. Obviously, Cardiff was massive, and probably Cardiff and Wroclaw were my 2 biggest highlights, I would say, of my career. And I think it's obviously riding in front of the amount of fans that you do, and it makes you feel like, sounds a bit corny, like a bit of a superstar, especially when there's that many fans in the stadium and they've literally come and paid to watch you and obviously the team, and it makes you feel like you're somebody. So it does spur you on a little bit.
It's something different, isn't it, in Poland that you don't get riding for a generally here from in a week to week basis. You go over there, and I know I did an event the other day with Connor Bailey, and we were talking about this. That he got an opportunity when you crashed and they brought him in. And he was saying, it was weird, all of a sudden it's like you're a local celebrity overnight just because you're in the team. It's it's a different level of exposure and all that kind of stuff, isn't it, that you get?
Yeah, it's a different ball game over there, and the way they do things, and it's like going into a football stadium, and security and the fan zone, and it's a really nice feeling. To be fair, I want again. Hopefully, I get another call up.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And you've talked about the downsides of you find yourself out of a team and you become dejected with it all, and similarly though, getting to a Grand Prix round and having an experience in Poland like that, where you're in a massive fixture, there's tens of thousands of people there, that must also balance that out and think, well, no, this is why I'm doing it. This is the reason that I'm doing it.
That's right. And like I say, and when you in general, when you have a good meeting and last heat decided and you've won the meeting in heat 15, and and when you go around and the fans are clapping and happy with you and stuff, and they're the feelings why, obviously there's a lot of low points, but them high points are what keep you going and why you do what you do.
If you were to be in charge of the rules of Speedway, and I did this question with Peter Adams, and I didn't realise that actually he had at one point been in charge of the rules of Speedway and invented most of them. If you were going to tweak with any or bring anything in, change Speedway in some way, what would you alter about it, do you think?
I don't know. I think they've, especially this year, they've covered a lot of them and put them right how they should be. Obviously, with the RR situation this year and not being able to sack riders the way they do, and they've got like a transfer period, so it gives people a chance. And obviously, after 25% of the year, if a rider's not going well, you're going to make changes. But it gives them a bit of a safeguard. For fan point of view, the yellow and white helmet colour is, say if you got one in the wash 100 times and it's faded a lot, you're not going to be tell who's yellow and who's white. I think going to black and yellow was a bit better than going to yellow again.
Yeah, amen to that. I would definitely endorse that one. Countdown clocks coming in as well, and these sort of semi-automated starts. The referee presses a button. It's the same as Ekstraliga and the Grand Prix now, from that point of view. So that's going to be something that fans are familiar with, I guess, maybe on TV, but won't have seen necessarily at their track until this season. So that's going to be new, and maybe catch one or two riders out trying to jump the start.
Yeah, countdown clock's a big plus. I'm not too sure on the automated starts because they can be held for a very long time, and I realised that in Poland, I thought they hold the starts over here, but over there the starts were held for a very long time, and revving an engine as high as they do and your clutches, it can be big problems, but hopefully it won't come to that. And I obviously like the ref sort of pushing a button because you sort of get used to the refs tend to hold them longer than other refs and some are shorter, so you sort of work out what's what. But with an ultimatum thing, well, it probably stops people jumping the start, I guess. So no, it should be fun.
Yeah, they reckon a few people are going to go through the tapes in the early part of the season, so they're geared up for that, I think. But
no, I'm not too bad really. But we'll see how it goes anyway.
And so, final question then. Obviously, you're putting together your own testimonial now, but if you were to pick a team that actually has existed in the history of Speedway to go up against your team of all-stars you named earlier on, which all-time team would you pick from British Speedway, from your experience?
I would say 2013 at Somerset. When I joined it later on, I think Somerset won every single trophy going. And then 14 was pretty special. And I think it was 2016 when Rowan was at Somerset, and I think we won the league that year. So they were very special, and it was really good banter, and there was a lot of good friends in the team. And I think that's what it's about. If you can find a team that they all get on and, everyone's having a good laugh. And obviously when it comes to the serious part of it, but it does help very good team bonding. So, I think especially at Oxford this year, there's a lot of good people in there that I get on with. And I think I'm really looking forward to that.
Which team that you've been involved in has had or has the best group chat?
I'd probably say Belle Vue when we won the league with Matty Zagar. I think he was a very good character to have in the team, and never stopped laughing. I think that was probably group chat wise. I'd say Belle Vue 2022. Good value for money.
Sounds fun. Charles, thanks for joining us on this episode of Humans of Speedway. It's been great hearing about your career to date, of course. And good luck with the testimonial when it comes round, 17th of March at the Echo Arena at Redcar. Are you actually riding in it yourself, or are you going to be watching on and involved in things off the track? Have you decided yet?
I'm 50-50 at the minute, but whatever I decide, it'll still be a good day.
But certainly, Freddie Lindgren is going to be riding, the first name to be announced for Charles Wright's testimonial, March 17th at Redcar. Make it down there if you can. Thanks a lot once again, Charles. Good luck with that, and good luck for the season ahead on all fronts as well.
Cheers, Ian. Thank you.
Thanks once again to Charles Wright for joining us, and thanks to you for listening as well. Please don't forget to check out some of the previous episodes, particularly, if you haven't heard it yet, the Coffee with Peter Adams that we had. We went to a Starbucks and just recorded the chat, and the stories, boy, there are stories. Hans Nielsen, also a previous episode, talking all about his career, 4 world titles, of course, and much more besides. We've also recently spoken with Brady Kurtz, former teammate of Charles Wright, in fact, Craig Ackroyd, Ben Cook, Alan Rossiter, all fairly recent episodes if you haven't caught up with those yet, and many more previous episodes as well from the last few years, not least as well with Paul Bowen, who is one of the contestants on this year's series of The Apprentice in the United Kingdom, and a well-known face around speedway tracks, rider with the Belle Vue Colts, and now apprentice candidate. Will Lord Sugar be investing? We'll find out in good time. You can hear the story of Paul Bowen in one of our previous episodes as well. Go through those at your leisure, and we'll be back with a new episode very soon of Humans of Speedway. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.